The party seeks power entirely for its own sake. We are not interested in the good of others. We are interested solely in power, not wealth or luxury or long life or happiness. Only power, pure power.
The moment I realised my daughter had joined a cult, my heart sank, but nothing could prepare me for the nightmare that had just begun. A nightmare crafted by David McKay, the man who has succeeded in creating his own personal version of Orwell's 1984.
We are not content with negative obedience, nor even the most abject submission. When you finally surrender to us, it must be of your own free will.
In 1984, Big Brother isn't just a figurehead, he's a constant, looming presence. His eyes are everywhere, ensuring no one steps out of line, and every word, every action is monitored. In McKay's world, this concept is disturbingly real. Just like Winston's every movement was tracked in 1984, McKay's followers live under constant surveillance. Personal letters, emails, verbal conversations, nothing is private. Even their inner thoughts are policed, with subtle yet constant pressure to conform.
The party seeks power entirely for its own sake. The object of power is power.
In my last video, I shared the impact that McKay's surveillance over emails has had on me personally. In this video, I want to go deeper into how this affects his followers and its links with other coercive behaviours like control of information, fear tactics, and thought reform. By the end of this video, I hope to make it clear that McKay isn't just blindly enforcing control. He knows exactly what he's doing. It is as though he's actually studied Orwell's 1984 and is using it as a rulebook. He does not even shy away from calling himself Brother Dave.
Hello, I'm Brother Dave.
And in doing so, mirroring Orwell's Big Brother, as if to mock the idea of freedom that he has stolen from his followers.
We do not destroy the heretic because he resists us. So long as he resists us, we never destroy him. We convert him. We capture his inner mind. We reshake him. We burn all evil and all illusion out of him. We bring him over to our side, not in appearance, but genuinely, heart and soul.
Beneath the so-called peaceful facade that McKay likes to present to the world, McKay is one of the most controlling cult leaders in operation today.
But no one ever was able to work with a member of Jesus Christians because that's how tight the control is that McKay exercises over them.
We should be servants to one another, but we are also servants of God. And so we have a responsibility to love and teach our fellow servants. This may mean correcting or admonishing someone when they are wrong.
McKay has always monitored the communication of his followers. One of his very early recruits, called Malcolm, explains that you live in a community in which every aspect of your life is decided for you. At the time he was a member in the early 1980s, all communication from family, which in those days were handwritten letters, were read communally. I've spoken to other ex-members who have left in more recent times, and they can confirm that that same practice is happening with the messages that come in through email. Malcolm also points out that even back in his day, members were not allowed to go out and leave their compound without being accompanied by another member. I've witnessed and observed these very practices still happening within the group today.
Power is in inflicting pain and humiliation. Power is in tearing human minds to pieces and pitting them together again in new shapes of your own choosing.
The communal reading of private emails gives McKay a platform to enforce his thought reform processes. Just as Big Brother manipulates language and information, McKay twists innocent comments to fuel group outrage, his own version of 2 minutes of hate. Misconstrued words are deliberately reinterpreted as being oppositional, regardless of what the writer's intentions are.
These same crowds were very easily manipulated.
And for anyone in the group who might side with oppositional views, McKay is quick to tell anyone who's outside of the group is an agent of Satan.
The party reshapes people, claiming it's for their own good.
This mirrors the 1984 storyline, where anyone who is not part of the party is labelled as a traitor or an enemy of the state. Members of Jesus Christians are never granted any time alone. They cannot leave their compounds unaccompanied. They cannot keep private journals, have confidential conversations, or even nurture private thoughts. Every aspect of their lives is monitored, and any deviation from McKay's rules can result in grievance process, where members are attacked by their peers.
That we criticize each other and make people accountable for how they use their time.
This process mirrors Orwell's thought police. Followers are encouraged to police one another, turning them into informants in a toxic competition to see who can conform to McKay's demands most zealously.
Obedience is not enough, unless he is suffering. How can you be sure he's obeying your will and not his own? Power isn't inflicting pain and humiliation.
It's a system designed to ensure no one dares to think independently. And it doesn't end there. McKay's control mirrors the party's methods by demanding absolute loyalty. He preaches that to be a true Christian, followers must continually forsake everything.
But forsaking all is not a one-time ritual like water baptism or saying the sinner's prayer. It may start off that way, but the principle of forsaking all continues throughout the Christian walk. We forsake our families, our possessions, our plans, our lives.
Can you not understand? The death of the individual is not death. The party is immortal.
Possessions, jobs, friends, and family, that is only the beginning. They are also instructed to forsake their dreams, their identities, and even their own lives.
Forsaking all, physically, is a necessary stage of spiritual growth, but it is only a stage. The real key to spiritual growth is, as you would expect, something more spiritual. It is forsaking yourself.
And if you are not prepared to lose everything, do you hear me? Everything. If you are not prepared to lose it all, including your own life.
We are priests of power. God is power. But our present power is only a word as far as you are concerned. It is time for you to gather some idea of what power means. The first thing you must realize is that power is collective. The individual only has power insofar as he ceases to be an individual. You know the party slogan? Freedom is slavery. Has it ever occurred to you that it is reversible? Slavery is freedom. Alone, free. The human being's always defeated. It must be so, because every human being is doomed to die, which is the greatest of all failures. If he can make himself complete, after submission, if he can escape from his identity, if he can merge himself in with the party so that he is the party, then he is all-powerful and immortal. The second thing for you to realize is that power is power over human beings. Over the body, but above all, over the mind.
Just like in 1984, where the party seeks to annihilate any trace of individual thought or rebellion, McKay insists all individuality must be stripped away. His followers are brainwashed in becoming lifeless drones, mere extensions of his will, devoid of personal agency or identity. McKay's grievance processes are disturbingly similar to Winston's interrogation sessions. Just as Winston is dragged into the ministry of love to be broken down and reprogrammed, McKay subjects his followers to grievance meetings designed to strip away any sense of autonomy or dissent.
I've been told so many times by my critics that I'm not a very loving person. If I think someone is doing something wrong, I just say it.
In these meetings, members are called out, humiliated, and attacked by their peers. The goal is not only to punish, but to force absolute submission, erasing any traces of independent thought.
Go on one of our famous survival outreaches and shiver through the night on an empty stomach.
Like Winston, who is coerced into loving Big Brother, McKay's followers are compelled to conform fully. Fearing both the group's judgment and McKay's wrath, people live in fear that any wrong word or gesture or even facial expression could be reported and result in punishment. The result is total control over thoughts, actions, and even their personal identity. McKay's dark use of strategies is both insidious and tragically effective.
Because young people badly want something worth dying for.
Members who manage to leave the group often find themselves so conditioned that they end up going back. They will spend days, weeks and months on the street in a state of confusion, too ashamed to go back to their families, they finish up returning to the fold.
We have broken you up. You have seen what your body is like. Your mind is in the same state. I do not think there can be much pride lifting you. You have been kicked and flogged and insulted. You have screamed with pain. You have rolled on the floor in your own blood and vomit. You have whimpered for mercy. You have betrayed everyone and everything. Can you think of a single degradation that has not happened to you?
When McKay's followers leave the group but then return, the process resembles Winston's reprogramming. In Orwell's dystopia, descendants like Winston are not only punished, they are broken down and reprogrammed to a point where they portray their deepest beliefs and come to embrace the very ideology they once resisted. Similarly, McKay's followers, often traumatized and struggling to navigate the outside world after leaving, find themselves drawn back to the group. Their time away leaves them in a state of confusion and fear, unable to trust their own thoughts or reconnect with society.
We are not interested in the good of others. We are interested solely in power, not wealth or luxury or long life or happiness.
Just as Winston, after enduring relentless torture, learns to love Big Brother, McKay's returning followers, often enduring psychological turmoil, return to the group because they no longer have the mental or emotional capacity to resist. In 1984, dissenters aren't just eliminated, they are forced to denounce their own minds. Which very much parallels McKay's strategies, where leaving doesn't guarantee freedom. Instead, followers are reabsorbed, having lost their sense of self and independence, ultimately yielding once more to his authority.
What pure power means, you'll understand presently. We are different from all the oligarchies of the past, in that we know what we are doing. All the others, even those who resembled ourselves, were cowards and hypocrites.
McKay has sold them an illusion of a utopia that will never materialise, just like in 1984. The grim reality of dystopia that they're living is carefully concealed from them as they remain trapped in his control, believing in a paradise that is always just around the corner.
The German Nazis and the Roman communists came very close to us in their methods, but they never had the courage to recognise their own motives. They pretended, perhaps even believed, that they had seized power unwillingly and for a limited time, and that just around the corner there lay a paradise where human beings would be free and equal. We are not like that.
Repetition plays a critical role in McKay's psychological control, just as it does in Orwell's 1984. In the same way that the party relentlessly bombards its citizens with propaganda and slogans like "war is peace" and "freedom is slavery," McKay repeats his teachings until they become ingrained in the minds of his followers.
We know that no one seizes power with the intention of relinquishing it. Power is no means, it is an end. One does not establish a dictatorship in order to safeguard a revolution. One makes the revolution in order to establish the dictatorship.
The constant reinforcement of his ideology dulls the critical thinking and makes dissent almost impossible. Over time, members lose the ability to question the beliefs that they've been conditioned to accept. Just as Winston and his fellow citizens own nothing, not even their own thoughts, McKay's followers are rendered entirely dependent on him and the group for their basic needs and identity. The removal of personal belongings is not just about material simplicity. It's about the eradication of any sense of personal space or boundaries. In both McKay's cult and 1984, the lack of ownership serves as a much darker purpose. It reinforces complete control over the individual and denies any opportunity for rebellion, however small.
We control matter because we control the mind. Reality is inside the skull.
Without personal belongings, McKay's followers lose the agency to make choices, carve out even the tiniest piece of life for themselves. They are left in a psychological state of dependence, much like Winston, who is completely at the mercy of Big Brother, with no power to define his life or resist the regime.
The object of persecution is persecution. The object of torture is torture. The object of power is power. Now do you begin to understand me?
By stripping followers of any personal possessions, McKay enforces a system where they are not just physically, but mentally owned by the group.
An endless pressing further upon the nervous power. You are beginning, I can see, to realise what that world will be like. But in the end you will do more than understand it. You'll accept it, welcome it, become part of it.
This total control over external lives mirrors the internal control McKay seeks over their thoughts and actions, creating a chilling parallel to the dehumanising mechanisms of Orwell's dystopia. McKay has even mirrored the daily exercise regimes presented in 1984. Just as Winston is forced to participate in mandatory exercise, McKay imposes a similar requirement on his followers by making them do running every day. In 1984, this compulsory exercise isn't just about physical fitness. It's another tool of control. Winston's participation in these exercises, which are constantly monitored and corrected by the tally screens, is meant to break down his spirit and ensure that his body, like his mind, is fully subordinated to Big Brother's will. McKay mirrors this practice through a daily running regime. On the surface, this may seem like a positive group activity or a way to stay healthy, but in reality is just another layer of control. By forcing followers to do this routine, McKay exerts physical control over their bodies, enforcing a sense of obedience and uniformity. In both 1984 and McKay's cult, the daily exercise isn't just a physical demand, it's a psychological one.
Do you know where you are, Winston?
I don't know. I can guess. In the ministry of love.
McKay claims to lead his followers to a life devoted to Jesus Christ. But the reality is far more sinister. He follows the rules of 1984 more so than the Bible. In McKay's world, surveillance, control, the complete erosion of personal autonomy reigns supreme. Just as Orwell's Big Brother watches, manipulates and crushes the individual spirit, McKay strips his followers of their identity. His relentless monitoring and communal policing leave no room for individuality or personal possessions. No escape from his watchful eye. McKay does not offer salvation. He offers a dystopia. His followers are subjected to a life of submission, where, like Winston in 1984, they are broken down and reprogrammed to serve one purpose: total obedience to him.
Hello, I'm Brother Dave.
And just as Orwell's Big Brother had absolute control, Brother Dave rules with the same iron fist. The Bible becomes secondary to McKay's twisted playbook, which echoes 1984 far more than any Christian teachings. His followers believe they are living for Christ, but in truth, they're living under Brother Dave, controlling every aspect of their lives.
We control life, Winston, at all levels. You are imagining there is something called human nature, which will be outraged by what we do and will turn against us. But we create human nature. Men are infinitely malleable. Or perhaps you've returned to your old idea that the slaves will arise and overthrow us. Put it out of your mind. They are helpless, like animals. Humanity is the party. The others are outside, irrelevant.